What's up, Welding family? I'm back with another video. I got my homeboy Peppers today. We out here in Houston, Texas, doing a video with the Ocean Corporation. We're gonna be doing a little questionnaire, asking a few questions. One thing that's really strange about this, I don't know how to swim. Haters, get your little jokes in because I can't swim. I know we can fight about it outside, whatever y'all want to do. What's up, guys? If you haven't seen my other video of me actually welding underwater, go check it out. It's the video posted right before this one. Hope you enjoy this one.
All right, so what we have here is a poster that kind of sums up a lot of what divers do. Over here, basically what this is the bottom half of an oil and gas. They'll call it a rig or a platform offshore. So the top part is actually out of the water. Diver is going to deal with stuff under. A vertical pipeline called a riser comes down, and then we've got different pipelines that run to manifolds and all kind of stuff connected. So your divers will come in and install these clamps, nuts and bolts, put the riser in, bolt that in. Then you have your pipelines come in and we'll flange those together. So you can see lots of flanges, lots of nuts and bolts. You can see we have a pipeline here, we got one here. Less than 500 feet of water, typically they've got to be covered or buried so anchors and fishing nets don't catch on. They'll have concrete mats they might put over it to cover it. This is over time the silt kind of fills in those and then buries it. Or we got our diver down here with his jet hose, and what this is, goes to a big pump. And it looks like a fire hose, comes down to a nozzle and it shoots water out, and you jet the mud, you jet the silt out of the way, and the pipe falls in a trench. You can see lots of flanges, pipes bolted together instead of welding. So a lot faster, a lot easier. Seals pretty much just as good for the life of the pipeline kind of thing. Back over on this side, you'd asked about welding pipe. Here's a habitat. And so you can see our pipeline comes in it. They'll hook up all your hoses and blow all the water out of here. Our diver comes down, gets inside, pulls off his diving helmet, puts on his welding hood, and he's just a welder, welds the pipe, gets out, flood it, take everything and just reverse the process. 300 to 1,000 feet is your saturation diving. So here's our bell, our diving bell. This thing is pressurized. So let's say he's 500 feet down. The inside of this, they live at depth. So this would be 500 feet. Our diver comes down and works, typically about 3 hours. He gets back in. Next diver gets out and works 3 hours, gets back in. They close the hatch, comes back up, makes back to the system. Those two get out, two more get in. The bell gets lowered down, then they continue to work. What about stuff that's deeper than 1,000 feet? ROV, remote operated vehicle. And basically what this is a drone that goes underwater. These things, can go to 20,000 feet, 300 horsepower. They can do NDT inspection. They got big articulating arms. They can do construction, put stuff together. Typically those are going to be used in your much deeper water. My name is Richard Johnston. I do marketing for the Ocean Corporation. I'm also an instructor. I graduated from here in 1990. A little background, my dad and grandpa were also commercial divers, so I grew up around commercial diving. A lot of misinformation, a lot of questions out there people don't know about, so I'll be glad to try and answer some questions for you.
What kind of welding do you do down there? Do you do any pipe, structure, carbon?
So typically, not much pipe welding, simply because if you're doing something more critical like that, it's got to be hyperbaric welding. And what that means is you actually have a habitat, a big box, if you will, that's built over the pipe, and then they flush all the water out, fill it full of air. You have to keep track of all of that. Then the diver goes down, gets inside, takes off his diving helmet, puts on his welding hood, and welds. So basically, your diving helmet is your transportation to get you to the work site. And so it's a welder getting in there, basically you're welding. It's real expensive to do that. So now what they do for connecting pipelines, typically they'll weld a flange at each end and the divers will bolt that together.
Okay.
Even if you say I'm the greatest underwater welder, before every job you're still going to have to go to the shop, get in the water, and pass the welding test.
Oh.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're a welder and you get a 4G cert, everything lower than that you're qualified for. Underwater welding, you have to get a cert for each position. So we actually have an overhead and then basically a fillet weld T-joint that we let our students, they pass the test, they get it, and it's an actual AWS cert. So it's not an Ocean Corp, it's an actual AWS cert. So we have CWI, the inspector inspects it. and signs off on. Pretty much you're going to use DC current and stick welding.
Well, that's good to know, because you know I'm a rig welder, and every time X-ray comes with pipe, you know.
That's the unemployment truck right there.
Yeah. So you might can't even sleep the day before because you know that they're gonna X-ray that well.
Yeah,
right. Didn't work out. Do you know if the metal's just as strong welding underwater than when you go onshore?
No, so typically why they don't do a lot of welding underwater is because it's not as strong. So you might be 50, 60, 40 to 70% of what it is if they weld in the dry. Main reason is it cools so fast, so it's hard to get really good penetration. You got bubbles coming off your welding rod as you're trying to run it. It's hard to see. You got visibility issues, current, and the deeper you go, typically the colder it is, so you got environment issues that start changing it. But the welding itself is pretty much regular. You might have a 60-13, 70-18, pretty much whatever you're welding, and you got your procedure for this, just like regular welding. The only real difference is your welding rod is coated in wax or a coating, and it keeps it dry until you burn the rod down. But other than that, back in the day, we used to get a pipe welded to a plate. We'd put some beeswax in it, heat it with a torch, take our welding rod, dip it in, and that's how you coated a welding rod.
Can you get shocked by doing
welding? So what we only use DC current when welding underwater. So you can still get shocked, but at least it won't kill you. You got rubber gloves. Typically, if you have a break in the lead, little break, you might get shocked. So we teach everybody to keep your ground and your lead in front of you. But usually we'll have you wear a wetsuit, so you got that insulation, you got your rubber gloves. If you get shocked, you can work through it.
How long does school take?
Right, so our school here at the Ocean Corporation is 7.5 months. And so for our diving program, our students typically go from 1 till about 5. And so you start off heavy classroom for about 2 months, and then there's a shift, and then you're doing more water, more diving, less classroom time. So we teach the physics and the science behind it. That way it's, you're safe, so when you get in the water, you remember not to do all these things. So everybody knows underwater welding. What we teach is commercial diving. And so your commercial dive, we teach you that basically it's you get in the water and do whatever that needs to be done.
Let's see, how deep do y'all go?
Right, so commercial divers can go up to 1,000 feet. Most of your work is going to be less than 500 feet of water.
Do y'all dive like in cold areas like Alaska or something? Is there a certain temperature y'all can't dive in?
Yeah, so your commercial divers dive just about anywhere and everywhere. There's some to where these guys are diving with ice on the water. In the Gulf of Mexico, it gets really, really hot.
This is like the most common question. How much do they make?
On average, our guys right out of school can make $50,000. May not seem like a lot to some people, but 7.5 months, and that's the lowest. That's your grunt level. And what that means is you're a tender, still learning a lot of stuff. Just like if you're a welder, you're not going to go out of school and go, I'm a pipe welder. And so once you start diving, you're still paid your 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Once you start diving, you get depth pay. The first 50 feet, you typically don't get paid. 51 to 100, you might get $1 an hour, or $1 a foot plus your day rate. Then 100 to 200s, $2 a foot, 2 to 300s, $3 a foot plus your day rate. When you get into saturation diving, you're really deep diving. You got to have usually about 5 years of experience, deep mixed gas and complex dives. Once you do this, pay is usually around $800 to about $1,500 a day. The reason you're paid that much is, let's say you're diving to 500 feet. So they pressurize and you're working and something happens. You cut a finger off or, heaven forbid, something happens, an emergency. Well, to get out, if you're at 500 feet, it's typically about a day plus 1 to get out, to decompress. Because your body is saturated with all this gas, so they have to go real slow to bring you up. So it's usually a day plus 1 for every 100 feet. So if you're at 500 feet, it's going to take 6 days to get you out.
What happens if you go out really fast?
You can embolize. If you go down under the water, all that water has pressure pushing down. And if you take a deep breath of compressed air, you fill your lungs up and you hold it and you come up, what can happen is your lungs keep expanding. So if you go to the bottom of a swimming pool and you breathe out, as you watch the bubbles, they get bigger as they go up. Same thing, as you come up, if you're holding your breath, your lungs are only going to get so big and they can rupture. If you come up too fast in just regular diving, you can get decompression sickness. You have nitrogen builds up in your body, so you come up and they might make water stops to decompress. Otherwise, these little nitrogen bubbles are floating around, and you come up in the little bubble, less pressure, becomes a bigger bubble, and they tend to get stuck like in an elbow or a shoulder or a knee. So it's painful. Your more serious stuff can get in your spinal column. Now it's the same as having a stroke. You cut off blood flow to your brain. How do we prevent that? We have decompression tables. The Navy's developed.
Like most blue collar jobs, there's some danger in every field. How is underwater welding dangerous?
Right. So I almost never use the word dangerous. Like you said, there's risk involved with pretty much any job. I mean, here in Houston, it's dangerous driving on the highway here. With crazy people drive crazy. So what I use is risk. And one analogy that people can relate to is if you see a burning building, your brain says, get out of the burning building. Firefighters show up and they go, I'm trained to work in that environment. They're going to go in there. Divers, same thing. So if you're out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you walk in the back of the boat, you look around and it's all dark and all you see is water and some waves and you can't really see a whole lot. You jump in the water and go do your job. Why? Because you're trained to work in that environment. Most people, I'm not jumping in the Gulf of Mexico at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's dark and looks scary. I personally like working at night. It was cooler. Things tend to slow down, a little more quiet, a little more relaxed. And, there's nothing going to get you at night that's going to get you in the daytime. So, no real worries. It's just a mental thing. But you're trained to work in that environment. Your biggest issues, I think, over the years, safety has gotten more and more and more and more. So way back in the day, I saw pictures of my dad, back in the 70s, and he's wearing flip-flops and shorts and Ray-Bans. Now, steel-toed boots, safety glasses, and a hard hat. Your biggest thing as far as risk or danger is going to be getting in a rush and putting fingers where they don't belong. So back in the day, you'd see a bunch of divers missing fingers. And so, trying to do a flange up or bolt something together and it's hooked to a crane and there's surge because the boat's going up and down and this is going up and down, but it doesn't just go up and down, it swings. And so if you put your finger and it hits, you can lose a finger. So what do? Don't put your finger where it don't belong. And so the biggest thing is if you plan your dive your plan. That's what I always teach. It's kind of like think what you're going to do and what you're going to accomplish before you get in the water. You got your tools ready, how you're going to do it. Don't get in pinch points or anything like that. If you're unsure, stop. Think things through. So marine life, sharks, not really that's not really a concern. The word I use for offshore is ginormous. Everything is crazy big, made out of steel. And so real heavy stuff, you're down there by yourself, stuff moving around, big cranes picking stuff up. So like I said, if you plan your dive, to me, I think it's relatively safe, Cool.
Yeah. Is there an age limit? Like you say, I have somebody who wants to have a life, career, career.
Well, we get people all the time. We get someone who's 50 years old and says, I want to be a commercial diver because I go scuba diving. Well, scuba diving is recreational, commercial diving is work. And so a lot of people think I'm going to be in the blue water and the fish and that kind of thing because they associate it with scuba diving. Then they find out you're a construction worker. And so what I tell them is your diving helmet is just transportation to get you to the work site. If you're a welder, you get in your truck, you drive, you weld, get in your truck, go home. If you're a diver, you put your helmet on, that's transportation to get you to the work site. You do whatever needs to be done. Construction worker, be it a welder or a mason or any kind of carpentry or heating, anything where you're using your hands, you get to a certain age, it gets tough. So here at the school, usually the cutoff we tell people is about 32, 34 max. And the reason being is you still have to do the apprentice thing, then move up. Now, if you're going to do inland diving, you don't really do that. You get out of school and bam, you're diving right out of school. Going in the Gulf of Mexico, you're going to do this apprenticeship. You're going to become a tender, and it's going to be longer. So by the time you break out or you're a full-fledged diver, you might be pushing 40. You're not going to get as much time.
Okay.
So one of the misinformation things is diving cuts your life short. And I always go, well, who's going to do a job that cuts your life short?
Right.
So I call it your dive expectancy, not your life expectancy. And so what happens is guys dive and they're in their 20s and their 30s, maybe in their 40s, and they're doing sat diving. So they actually end up doing sat jobs. They're diving less, but they're still making more money. And so what happens is they decide, you know what? I'm missing family. I'm missing holidays and birthdays and anniversaries. I'm tired of going offshore. I've made a bunch of money, and so I'm going to go be a florist, or I'm going to go be a welder. I'm going to go do something. Not that being a welder is easier, but I'm on the beach and I can be home at night.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So it's, you know, diving it's hard on family life or relationships. So they might decide, well, I still want to be around diving, so I'm going to be a supervisor. I'm going to do consulting. I'm going to be an ops manager. I'm going to do sales and marketing for diving companies. I'm going to work for companies that sell tools, underwater tools and equipment, because they're going to be familiar with all that stuff. So they might, you know, transition into a land job, but still be diving related kind of thing. How long can you do it? As long as you stay healthy. I know guys are in their 60s doing it.
Yeah.
So depending on how healthy you are and how crazy artists keep doing something. Me, I love it. I love being around the diving. But when you start getting older as an instructor, I'm beat by the end of the day just working as an instructor. You know, I'm real hands-on, and you get tired doing that kind of thing. You guys younger, 20s and 30s, I can go 12 hours a day, not a problem. You know, but when you start getting in your 40s and 50s,
Everything changes.
you know, pushing in the 60s, yeah, doing construction work, the advantage you have when you start getting older is you have the experience. So you may not have the energy, you know, the younger guys do, but you can usually do it faster and easier. You know, if I can't move something, I know I've got a crane and a tugger and how to move stuff, versus the younger guy might be trying to muscle everything. Older guy's going to go, that's heavy. I'm just going to hook up the crane, have the crane pull it into place, you know, that kind of thing. So pretty much it's a matter of just, you know, staying healthy and liking what you do.
What's your favorite thing about being an underwater welder?
For me, it's I like it because every job could be different. So you might be in 20 feet of water, jetting down a pipe that's coming off the beach or something, and then a week later you're in 1,000 feet of water, crystal clear. You know, I've been down South Texas in the Fire Gardens, 1,000 feet, beautiful blue water. I saw sea turtles like the size of a car. You know, we're out there throwing broccoli and lettuce to them, and, you know, big manta rays, really cool stuff. So I like the kind of the unknown, and it's like, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to get in the water and do it.
Yeah, that's good, because I worked in the shop before. Man, it gets boring doing the same thing over and over again. And now I'm a rig welder, but I'm constantly doing different things, so I can't just sit in the cubicle all day.
Yeah.
What would you say was the worst thing you heard about it?
The worst thing, probably being stuck offshore. So, you know, you miss Christmas or birthdays and holidays or anniversaries. You miss going out with your friends, you know, or girlfriend, or you got a significant other. So you kind of miss some of that. But, you know, going into it, if you know what to expect. And so, you know, here at the school, we don't work on commission. So I give you the negative, if you want to call it that, and the positive. So you make an informed decision. You know, and the lifestyle, it's not an easy lifestyle for families and for loved ones and that kind of thing. But if you got a strong relationship, secure, you know, your significant other is independent, can run things, you know, any traveling job, any construction thing, you're putting in them long hours, you got to go to different locations, you know, where you're away from your loved ones or whatever, that kind of thing.
It's a sacrifice that you have to make, but like I tell a lot of my people watching my channel, the sacrifice you got to make, but you always got to have a game plan at the end of the tunnel, where you trying to go.
We had the big house, the 3-car garage, the swimming pool. You know, when I turned 16, Dad came in, took me to the Chevy place, said, pick out a car. Brand new Camaro, you know, 16, 17. I had credit cards, me and my buddies going to Florida. You know, not everybody had that kind of lifestyle. So you know, you know, what do you want to do? If you're going to be a doctor, you have to pay 12 years of dues and a lot of debt to get to be to that point, you know, to be able to have that kind of lifestyle. Most important thing I always tell everybody, it's don't just look at the money. Is it something you're doing that you're going to enjoy, make you happy? You know, when you find something you really love doing and you're making good money, you know, that's the thing.
What are the chances of running into a shark, big fish, things like that? You know, like
Hey, everybody asks about sharks, so that's one of the most common questions. Been around diving all my life. I've never heard of a commercial diver being attacked by a shark. They're curious. They might come up and check you out, but you have a hat and you have a tank on your back and a hose and there's cables and noise and you're not food. Now, if it's a big shark, you're probably gonna keep an eye on it just to keep an eye on it.
how hard is to find a job after you graduate from school?
Right. So here at this school, we have job placement. About 6 weeks before our students graduate, he sits down with you and goes, what are your goals? Where do you want to work? You know, do you want to do inland diving or do you want to be a Gulf diver? If you want to be a Gulf diver, you know, 95% of all your commercial diving is Gulf of Mexico, and you're going to be in South Louisiana. I love South Louisiana. Great food, people are super friendly, fairly low cost of living. Especially if you're into hunting and fishing, that's the place to be. We had a class just graduated. I think we had 4 went to Maryland. We had 1 went to South Dakota. We got some guys went down to Galveston. And so our job placement, they try to find something that's going to best fit for you. We've had people working at the big aquariums, you know, SeaWorld, the aquarium downtown, Houston. So just a variety of stuff. I met one guy and he actually cleans the big fountain out in Vegas. The cool thing is it's good for life. Twice a year we have a meet and greet kind of thing. So we have a barbecue and we invite companies to come in and you can kind of interview the companies. We've been in business over 50 years. And so a lot of our graduates from here are owners or managers or operations guys in diving companies and NDT companies. And so, you know, we got a lot of alumni out there in the industry that, you know, he can pick up the phone. Jeff pretty much has contacts at every bigger commercial diving company.
All right, so just kind of to recap on a few things, we're located in Houston, Texas. Ocean Corp's been in business for over 50 years. We've had several thousand folks come through here. We have job placement. We have financial aid available, just like going to a regular college, FAFSA. All that information is on our website. One of the things we kind of didn't really get into is a physical. So you have to be able to pass a dive physical. It doesn't mean if you take a medication you can't dive. We actually have a diving doctor that will have him answer those questions. Your biggest obstacle, if you have, as far as health-wise, is going to be if you're insulin-dependent diabetic, if you have asthma, if you have heart conditions, that kind of thing. Other stuff, minor stuff, is not really a big deal. But again, if there is a medical question, we can turn that over to our doctor. We offer tours, so if anyone wants to come to the school Monday through Friday, you can take tours, go to our website, you can email us, call us. If I don't have an answer, I'll get Brian or Clanton, one of the other guys, and we'll get you an answer. Financial aid questions, we're glad to answer any kind of questions like that. Again, our diving students go to school they usually come in around 12, start setting up. Class officially starts around 1. A lot of folks come in early because they want to practice putting on the gear, that kind of thing. 1 to about 5 is when they kind of do their diving. And then the last hour is breaking down equipment, and then we usually do a debriefing after every class. So what did we do? What did we accomplish? What can we do different? So your average day goes from about 12 to about 6. So 1 to 6 officially, but 12 to 6 is going to be a typical day Monday.
So if you finish high school, you really don't know where you want to head in life, you know what I'm saying? You want to make some good money, a good living, and, you know, start building a career. I think this will be a great opportunity for you. They'll train you properly, and, you know, from what we showed you out today, they'll slowly rank you up into your professional diver and ready to go to the Gulf and make some money, man. But don't forget to hit that like or subscribe button. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.